Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. It is Wednesday, September 4th. I'm Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. Early show this week because the Discraft Great Lakes Open, aka DGLO, aka Toboggan Special, aka Heinold again, is happening this weekend in Michigan. 4 ounce, the last Elite Plus event of the season, and the last regular season tournament of the Disc Golf Pro Tour season is upon us. So we're going to get you ready for that today. Josh, before we get to that though, we got to talk a little Manufacturers Cup. We got a question and we wanted to come back and take a look at how things are tracking this season, because, you know, you kind of get into the year and you forget about all of the off-season hijinks and the contracts and the millions and all this and that. And how's it going for these companies? Yeah. Now's the chance to tune in.
Shout out to Disc Golf Doug over in our mailbag thread on our Discord. He's the one who suggested that we take a look at this again, and it was a great suggestion. So we made basically an entire show out of it. So great email, Doug.
Well, let's dive right in. And I want before we look at the data, I just want you to give me your gut. What does your gut say? Who's leading the Manufacturers Cup race? Assume you assign some kind of points, bonuses for majors, bonuses for wins, podium points, blah, blah, blah. If you just kind of holistically think about it, who's in the lead right now?
Combining divisions?
Yes.
Probably Discraft. Okay. Because I think Prodigy is ahead on the MPO side and Innova is ahead on the FPO side, but Discraft has a successful player on both sides of the division in Anthony Barella and Missy Gannon. There's major representation in there. There's a pile of wins between them. Holland adds in a couple wins. And they just have the depth. Prez has a major. So True. They've got a major on both sides, which I think is the only company that has a major on both sides this year.
We'll have to check. We have the data. We're going to look at it.
We'll look. Anyway, so that's my gut then, is Discraft.
A major on both sides. Because
it's either Discraft or Innova. Or Latitude.
It's not Innova and it's not Latitude. So there you go.
That makes life easy.
Yep, because Innova famously has players that do not win the majors. So yeah, I mean, I think I agree. Although I always wonder to myself, like, does Innova's combination of having Calvin plus like a very strong FPO team outweigh Discraft? Sure. That's always a question. And what about MVP's emergence, right? Because there was so much hype in the offseason with the Eagle stuff, and then we got the Wind Dragon and da. I'm sure they're selling Frisbees, which of course is the point. So this is not the point. But I would say also that maybe their players have underperformed. Again, this is before we've really looked at things with the data. But we have a chance to look at the data.
Yeah.
So
and for clarification, as you kind of hinted at, we don't care about disc sales here. We are objectively like, if there was a cumulative points and a big trophy was awarded to a manufacturer, who would get said trophy? I don't care that MVP is still selling a pile of pixels. That's not what we're here about. We're here just to look at their performance on the course.
Facts. Okay, so here we go. Podium count, very close between maybe the companies that you would expect. Discraft has 30 podiums across the season, across both divisions. And Innova has 28. So very strong. Can you guess who's third in the podiums race?
How far off is third place?
About half of the number of podiums as Discraft and Innova.
Probably Discmania then.
That's the one.
I'm saying because Gannon's probably carrying.
He's carrying
8 to 10 by himself, and Ella's got a win and a couple others, but Gannon by himself. I just had to make sure there wasn't another company that's outperforming Gannon.
Yeah, him and Klein have been putting in that work. Obviously, Burr to a greater degree, and also Nicholas Antala.
Nicholas Antala, duh.
Can't forget about Nicholas Antala, and even Ella pulling a little bit of weight this year.
Yes. Yeah.
So yes, Discmania comes in with 15 podiums, which is quite a bit higher than next team up, Dynamic Discs at 9, largely maybe entirely driven by Ricky.
Rebecca Cox has one appearance. Oh no, Rebecca Cox is Latitude 64. Never mind.
Oh, that's right.
No.
So DD at 9, MVP at 8. Latitude 64 at 8, then you've got Prodigy at 7, and then the smaller companies kind of down the way. On the win side, quick, who's in front in MPO wins? Discraft or Discmania?
Discraft.
Wrong. Discmania.
Really?
That's how good Gannon's been.
Well, and Nicholas has one win. Yeah, he does. Exactly. I was trying. And
Ella.
And Ella, yeah.
I did say MPO only.
Okay. I was like, hold on, if we're doing FPO, stick Missy in there and Holland, and I'm pretty sure I get the win on this one.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so 6 wins is the most for Discmania in MPO. Then you've got Discraft with 5, and then it thins out quite a bit. Innova has 2, DD has 2, and then
Calvin
1 each for MVP, Prodigy, and Castoplast. Note, we did not include all of the European stops, even if they were full DGPTs. If they didn't have a strong enough American field, we just left them out of this analysis.
Yes. Interestingly,
you should ask me a trivia question when you finish your thought here.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. Well, I was going to see if I could frame this one into a trivia question, but I don't know if I have a clean way to do it. I wanted to highlight that no sponsored players with no sponsorship have out-podiumed DGA, Neptune, Clash, and Castoplast. And that is largely driven by Emily Weatherman.
That's crazy.
Gavin Rathbun makes an appearance. Annika Sten gets a win, obviously. But no sponsorship. So in terms of FPO wins, where do you think no sponsorship ranks among companies?
Well, I'm thinking you just named 2 players who've won.
Yep.
Sten
so they've got
Weatherman.
2.
So there's the 2.
Correct.
Probably ahead of everyone except Latitude, Discraft, and Innova.
That is correct. That is correct.
Let's go, baby.
No sponsorship is 4th in our categories of no wins. Which, I think about all the money that that companies are spending on their FPO players, and the fact that 2 of them are not being paid by anybody and still outperforming them, I think is hilarious. I love this.
Somebody emailed, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to go look up exactly who it was, but thank you for the email. That based on Isaac's comments on this podcast last week, where he seemed to imply that he was making in the upper 5 figures range annually from Prodigy, is making less than Kona
in base salary.
Right. I mean, obviously, we don't quite know any of the details here. A lot
I'm
of
sure
extrapolation going on.
His winnings, like 30 grand, for example.
Sure.
But yeah, like that is probably. Here's my question.
Kona got the bag, dude. Got the bag, and you gotta love it. You absolutely gotta love it. She had a career season.
Yep.
At the peak of the disc golf market, and she finessed them.
Her career season was 1 win.
It was still an awesome season.
Like, it was a good season.
She finessed them. I don't know what to tell you.
If you looked at the current season right now, I can think of at least half a dozen players who are having a better season this year than Kona had the year that she got paid Kristen money.
I understand. That was a sick move by her.
It was. Here's my question. Dee, here's an open call. How much do you want for a copy of Kona's disc sales numbers? Because here's the thing, and we talked about this for like almost a full year after Kona signed that deal, is that she does have a very strong social media presence, right?
No doubt.
And that she's a good marketer, and that she probably moves some frisbees. I want to know how many,
especially relative to players of her skill level.
Correct. I want to know how many, and like how upside down they are in this deal, if they are.
If somebody at one of these companies leaks an internal like quarterly sales document for each player, I will just lose my mind. It would be the greatest thing.
Completely anonymous.
Send it in.
We will protect you anonymous. As our source.
You can contact me on Signal or whatever the app that guy that's getting busted for trafficking is, because he's got the illegal app. You can email upshot@ultiworld.com, whatever it takes.
I'm in politics. I will protect you from extradition, whatever you need. Come to Pocatello, Idaho. We'll get you set up with a new identity.
I promise you, if you commit crimes and you come to Pocatello, I will keep you safe. You will not be extradited from Pocatello.
Crimes related to disc golf specifically.
Okay, so FPO wins. Here we go. Discraft has 7. Innova has 5. Latitude has 4. And then No Sponsorship has a pair. Discmania has 1. And that's the list.
That's the list.
So that's Kristen, obviously. It's really that Innova and Discraft have the large majority of the top players, and have for some time.
Sure.
It's remember, folks, Discraft and Innova have been the big dogs for a long time, and they're not going to go off and just roll over and die when MVP comes in and starts throwing around $1 million a year contracts.
Yeah. One, I think, notable player who did not get highlighted on this list because of field strength, but probably deserves a little bit of a nod, would be Silva Saarinen.
Sure.
Really cleaned house on the European stretch when there was a bit of a weaker field. Got several wins out of it, including some silver events. Again, not quite enough in a manufacturer cup, but I think MVP does deserve credit for having Silva on their team.
Yeah, and I think you can make a case for the European events to count the same. I mean, in a way they do, like for the players. It's just like when they're not playing real fields, it feels a little bit different.
It skews the strength of the companies.
Correct.
Which is what we're here to.
But I think it's a great deal for MVP.
Yeah,
and I feel like they got to be pretty happy with that situation.
And the reason I highlight that is because when I look at, for example, like Prodigy, right? Prodigy has long undervalued and underinvested in its FPO team relative to what it did on the MPO side. And right, it would be one thing if they were a smaller company who only sponsored one MPO player, but they have long fielded one of the best MPO teams in disc golf, but never invested the same in FPO. MVP, on the other hand, does have, Sarah Hokum is getting older, but has long had a world champion and a staple of the FPO division. They have Silva Saarinen, who is a very promising up-and-comer in Europe as well, who really could be competing with some of our top European names at the biggest stage, and has been soon. And so I just feel like it feels different for MVP versus Prodigy.
For sure. But I think I must say, it feels like MVP's results are a little underwhelming particularly on the MPO side, given the fanfare in the offseason. Right? I mean, Simon has a win this year.
Yep.
So can't take that away. But I believe that's his only podium. Music City, he wins, and that's his only podium. Eagle has just maybe started to turn the corner and has basically been not great for most of the year. And those aren't their only two players, but like obviously they've invested a lot of resources into them. Again, I think they're probably fine from a sales perspective. I think it's probably going pretty well. But if I'm the chief marketing person at MVP, I'm like at least a little concerned about the performance level lately.
Listen, if MVP didn't predict this eventuality from Simon, where has another kid and he is older and touring and competing at the level that he's always competed, was not going to continue in perpetuity, like that better not be a surprise. Otherwise, that they wrote a really fat check with some very misguided visions of what Simon would be. I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'm just saying if that was the reason they wrote the check, because Simon was going to get 5 wins every season or 4 wins every season for the next 10 years. I don't
think they got that twisted.
Right.
I think they signed.
I've got a product to sell you guys.
the most liked player in disc golf.
Agreed. Now,
with crazy charisma and a YouTube channel and a social media following and all that.
Correct. On the flip side, I'm very interested to know kind of what their calculus was in terms of Eagles' win potential and where he would be. Did they expect him to be Gannon Buhr right now? Did they expect him to be challenging Calvin as often as Calvin is up on the podium? I wouldn't be shocked if the answer to that question was yes. Maybe they were cautious and said, we don't expect Eagle to be competitive again at the level that he's been in the past for a year to 2 years, and they've given themselves a window before they start sweating. But I also don't think it's unreasonable that Eagle, in talking with them, said, I'm going to be 100% and back to form, this season. And even his good performance at Worlds does not yet convince me that he's going to have even a successful end of this season. And how quick he's going to return to Eagle form is still and if he'll return to what Eagle used to be is still a question mark for me. And so I'm really interested to know what that team envisioned in Eagle's competitive success when they signed him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eagle definitely has some marketing, you can market him.
Yes.
Not to the same extent as Simon. And so I think you are paying for performance a little bit more there. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe I'd be a little bit uneasy about things just because it's like hasn't been there. But obviously, green shoots. It's started to look better lately.
Yeah.
I thought it might be interesting, Josh, before we move on, to take a look at some of the players who are going to be up for contract renewals or new deals this offseason. In the context here of our Manufacturers Cup. So here's some names. I'll start with people who are on longer term deals.
I think you're about to hit the most important one right off rip.
Well, I think the most important one right off the bat is Isaac Robinson.
Yep. Spot on.
He's up. It's been a 3-year deal. He extended with Prodigy to go 22 to 24. It's coming up. What's going to happen there? Interesting one.
Listen, I was surprised. And I don't know if he meant to convey it this way, but I was surprised, even if you are going to shop around, which of course he is. But I was surprised at how quick he was to say, send me your deals. I want to see them. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's you often don't hear that, level of candor.
You hear, oh, I'm very happy with my company. I'm happy with the relationship. I would love to stay with them. I'm hoping we can work something out in the off season. Of course, they're fielding other offers. No one's stupid. We know that's happening. But the fact that Isaac was like, no, like I want to see what's out there. Like he's gonna go where he can get the most money.
Got to get the bag. I mean,
got to get the bag.
After the seasons that he's had, you have to. Let's take a look here. So some other interesting names: Owen Scoggins. Anthony Barella.
That one's interesting.
That's interesting, right?
That is interesting.
I think there's pretty symbiotic relationship there, given all of the who owns the IP of all of the Barella Diamondbacks jersey, snake stuff, logo, da da da. That's actually a very interesting question, because if Discraft owns that stuff, he's going to feel like, I got a great thing going. Why would I even consider walking away from this? But if he owns all the IP, then he might be like, well, I can take this wherever I want. Who wants to bid it up the most?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. We should send an email to Anthony Barella and ask him who owns that IP.
I think it's a great idea. Does Anthony Barella know who owns the IP? Okay, let's see. Other names. Adam Hammis, 3-year deal up. Discraft. Andrew Marweed. Bunch of names at Discraft, in fact. Ezra Aderhold, Brody Smith.
A lot of those 2-year deals expiring.
That's right. Right. Ella Hansen's up 2 years at Discmania. Cole Radallin's up at DGA. Casey White at Discmania.
Here's the thing real quick about those Discraft players. Individually, I don't think a lot of them have a ton of marketing power to be like the guy, except Anthony Barella. Anthony Barella excluded, of course. He could be the guy somewhere. But other than Anthony Barella, I don't think any of them are the face of any company. Discraft does a really nice job of presenting a team atmosphere. A team, their tour series are all standardized across team members. They have the same font, the same designs. It's just which disc you want. That makes it feel like regardless of which team series I'm buying, I'm just buying the disc that I want. And so whether I'm buying a Coriolis, and there are some people who probably go out and buy a Coriolis disc, but if I'm buying a Coriolis Force or a Brody Smith Zone OS, I'm probably doing it just because I wanted that disc and I like the plastic. It's not necessarily based on the marketing force of that individual person alone. Whereas if you look at Innova, they have very much individualized. You make your own stamp and it's whatever disc you want in whatever plastic you want. And it is much more on the individual's force of personality than on the team sense. I think those players are significantly more successful in sales at Discraft than they would be at any other company, because Discraft does a good job of supporting its team largely rather than on an individual level.
More so than any other manufacturer.
Absolutely. Yes.
They like, I don't know if they did this year, but 2 years ago, I think they flew everybody to a place and shot commercials together and stuff.
Yes, the big team videos.
They're taking it seriously as as a group marketing effort, not just specific individuals. Although they do give some people a bigger platform, of course, like Macbeth and Page and whatever.
Yeah,
but Discraft has completely turned it around from a nightmarish situation like 7-ish years ago, and then boom, they sign Macbeth, and then boom, they extend Macbeth and they make the $1 million a year deal, and it makes all this news. And then all after that, right, it was just like, let's line them up and sign all these big names, up and comers, people who have had on their roster, and now they're getting those players.
Yeah.
So
very much a big tent approach to grabbing people, with Macbeth as the center post holding everything up. Some
1-year deals of note coming up. Haley King, Silva Saarinen.
That one's interesting. Wonder if MVP goes out and
James Proctor, Ellie Mittling, Valerie Mondahano. Let's see. Plenty more. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I don't see any of those players moving though, except for possibly Silva.
What do you think of? Have we talked about the Lone Star disc stuff?
Oh, I don't know if we did.
I think we might have just glossed over this in all of the craziness of the last few weeks.
It happened right before Worlds while we were on vacations. Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I couldn't even try to follow all the drama, but it seems like my big takeaway is that Lone Star is getting wrecked by the downturn, which is so predictable. And so they're probably having a hard time moving plastic to the same extent and maybe paying people. And feels like there's broken promises on both sides. And they have kind of a weird mishmash team of a lot of sort of misfitty type people. Some of whom like I don't necessarily know are like the like upstanding brand, characters that you want, right? I mean, come on, right? Like we talked a bunch about this. And so
but they're the family
it's just
friendly
like
brand,
gone
Charlie.
bad for everybody. Yeah, oh my god, the family friendly, dude.
I love that Chandler Kramer is like, yeah, they took my van and stranded me out in the middle of nowhere. And then Lone Star makes a post and they're like, that's not what happened. We would have driven him wherever he needed to go. He's just a child. And I'm like, I don't know who's right here, but there's no winners.
This is what I'm saying, right? Like I didn't want to try to like get to the bottom of it because it was like it's like toxic friends. You're like, I'm good. I'm not going to come out this weekend.
Chandler Kramer is practicing with duct tape covering the Lone Star logo on his jerseys.
I did see that. Can't he get a new jersey? Wear a t-shirt, my dude.
Like, you go to Walmart and buy a Reebok Dry Fit, man. Like you're wearing duct tape over a sponsor. The standards are not high to beat.
Oh my god. So goofy.
So funny. So
are you ready for like 6 months of this coming up? Like it's exhausting.
Isaac Robinson is going to be so interesting.
It is.
Because we know that things have been bad at Prodigy and they've cut players mid-season. And
what's the move? Like who wants the deal? Does he want to be the like B guy under Gannon just because they're friends, or does he want to try to go be the guy at a company? Because he can be the guy, right?
Where would he be the guy though? That has the money to pay him. In this market, it feels like any company does not have the means and would be overpaying on their capacity to market him.
The answer is Prodigy.
It is Prodigy. It is.
How crazy is that?
Only exception,
right?
Yes.
Like, is there a world? And I know I said this with Gannon, and like I'm sure it was impossible. There was like no chance Gannon was ever going back. But I still think if Prodigy like makes the right number offer, and they're like want to make it work, that like maybe it could work. Like he's been at Prodigy. He left and came back.
Yep.
You can't say that he's not having success with the Frisbees. All
right, let me give you three. I'm going to give you three scenarios. I want you to pick what you think is most likely.
Great.
Number one, Innova offers him a good contract that is very incentive laden. We're talking like they will double and match any money he makes at majors, and then a very nice base salary. But he is the number two guy behind Calvin. It is one that is based heavily on his performance. But has a very high upside earning potential. We're going to say the highest upside earning potential based on incentives, which we know is a likely Innova structure. Number two, Discmania offers him the highest base salary. And disc royalties, where their focus is on the marketing image of being with Gannon again, being with Alden Harris, reuniting the boys, and creates kind of a marketing scheme around there. They offer him a 6-figure salary that is probably the highest. But again, he's behind three. Well, I don't know if he's behind Kyle Klein and Nicholas Antill, but he's sharing the spotlight with a lot of players. Option number three, Prodigy offers him at least a 6-figure deal. It is not as high as Discmania's base, but higher than Innova's base, but does not have quite the same incentive structure that Innova's does. So the earnings are capped. If he has a season like he's had in the past 2 years, he would make the least amount of money at Prodigy, but he is the guy in the face of Prodigy, and they promise him his own disc lineup.
It's a great hypothetical.
Which one do you take? It feels like, to me, that feels like a very real possibility of like how this is going to shake out for him.
I mean, here's what's in the back of my mind, because I want to say 3, but in the back of my mind, I know that Prodigy has been laying people off, cutting costs, and it's been bad times.
Yes.
Do they really have the means to throw out a fat contract? Now, I mean, if they're going from paying him 90 to paying him
110,
120,
120,
like that's
sure.
not breaking the bank.
Like Kona money, you know.
We could all wish for some Kona money, right?
I listen. I would not be upset with some Kona money.
So I think, even though I think that that's definitely a possibility, I lean towards Discmania making a good offer, and that being a potential landing spot.
Do you think Discmania has the money? Think House of Disc will let him sign Isaac for 6 figures?
It's a great question.
They probably are tied up a lot of money in Kyle. And when's Kyle up for renewal? Is it 2 years from now?
Let's look.
You can look at this at the Ulti-World active contract tracker.
You bet you can. Just discgolf.ultiworld.com/active-contracts. Kyle's up 2026.
Oh, so they got time. They got some time. Yeah. And I mean, that kind of clarifies some competition between like Kyle and Isaac about, like, you know, Kyle it feels like has been good but has never broken out to a full potential of what I think Discmania expects from him. And to be honest, I think in Isaac, Gannon, Alden combo, if Isaac is going to continue to win 2 majors or a major a year, is probably more marketable and makes more money than a Kyle Gannon combo.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens this offseason. In many ways, what are the deals going to look like? I'm not envious of the players who have to go into negotiations this season compared to like 2 years ago. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're talking DGLO. We're making our picks. Stay with us. It's the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Pound just released the Ambassador Octothorpe colorways for Aaron Gossage, Erica Stinchcomb, Gavin Babcock, Ellie Mittling, and Chandler Fry. So go check out all those brand new colorways. They've also got new solid black double convertible Rufuses in stock, new fanny pack colors, and even new Pound branded flight towels. And I gotta be honest, one thing I'm super excited about, maybe you've seen this, new prototype out for the Vagabond, their new side carry bag that's coming soon. They're going into the refinement process, so keep your eyes peeled for another new style of bag if that's what you're into. Go to pounddiscgolf.com to check out all the options. The aches and pains of age can creep up on you quickly. That doesn't mean you have to suffer in silence. Our sponsor, Sunset Lake CBD, has just what you need to soothe your aching joints and calm down those sore spots. As hemp farmers, the folks at Sunset Lake know what it means to be sore after a long day in the fields. That's why they make their products with top shelf ingredients, including CBD they grow themselves. From salves and rubs to gummies and tinctures, Sunset Lake CBD has everything you need to find relief at the end of your day. So if you're out for a long day of disc golf, and I've had this myself, you carrying the bag, maybe playing 2 rounds in a day, and you're getting up in age a little bit. Need a little bit of Sunset Lake CBD, like a salve on your back after a long day of disc golf. I'll tell you what, feels amazing. You go to Sunset Lake CBD, offering listeners 20% off all orders if you use code UPSHOT at checkout. So sunsetlakecbd.com, use code UPSHOT at checkout. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer owned, Vermont grown. Welcome back to the Upshot. I'm really curious about this year's Great Lakes Open, because we're coming off of 2 rounds at Ivy Hill, a course that was compared quite a bit to Toboggan. And obviously, we all, if you've been watching the tour, you generally remember some holes at Toboggan. Some of the big downhills, the big uphills, the, cornfieldy vibes. I think I'll be curious to see how similar or dissimilar it feels from Ivy Hill, given that we've become very accustomed to having this course on tour. I mean, it's been on the tour for 20 years, essentially, since like the very beginning of the national tour. So, elevation, big shot making, like fair, natural OB. I think it's a great course. It's barely changing this year. There's almost nothing to talk about for course changes. It's just a tour staple.
Well, Charlie, there is one really notable change. Hole 16, the rules for the OB have changed. This year. Any throw from the tee coming to rest OB must proceed to the drop zone with a penalty throw. Nate Heinold's like, fool me once, Simon.
And then he's like, I'm going to make new holes just like that hole, and I'm going to put in the new rule just to get Simon.
Yes. Quick reference for those who did not watch it last year. Simon coming down the stretch had a couple strokes to play with. This hole was playing notoriously hard because players who came up short were having to go to what is a very punishing drop zone. And Simon, like a genius, blasted the disc through the backside of the OB. Like, I don't think his disc touched within 100 feet of the green once he was past it. He threw it so far, he did not care. Because that way, if you crossed over, then you got to advance up to the green. It was only if you didn't cross it, you went to the drop zone last year. And so he blows it over the back. Everyone's like, yeah, like he gets to go up to the green and has a par putt, which he saves. And players were like getting double bogeys because they weren't saving the bogey from the drop zone. It was so
brilliant
bad.
Brilliant play.
Nate Heinold like comes running out and argues that it didn't cross over and like was trying to push it, that he had to go to the drop zone, and the card let him go to the green. It was a debacle. It was hilarious. And Nate Heinold is not letting it happen again this year.
And Simon won the tournament.
Simon won the tournament doing this. Yes.
Even better.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a notable change I can see.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a couple other things like pin position,
sure,
here and there, but nothing of serious note. Simon and Eagle battled down the stretch last year. Chris Dickerson finishing 5 shots back of Simon. Overall, this is always going to be an event where you see a lot of like strong players at the top. It's not a super random bounce course. It's pretty fair, and like if you throw clean lines, you will be able to get birdies, and if you're off, you're going to get wrecked.
Yep.
So it's a good one. I don't know how much I love watching 4 rounds at one course. I mean, Josh obviously giving the thumbs down.
You know how I feel about 4 rounds of one course. MVP and majors are basically my only exception, and MVP is only on a good day.
Yeah. And so lastly, plus, that must mean it's time for Gannon to get back on the winner's circle. We then go into the cut down for the playoffs. The first cut is like so far down that it's almost meaningless. But we'll start talking about the cut and where things stand going into the Tour Championships as we get a little bit closer following this last regular season event. Any other notes on the like course itself? I feel like this is just one of those ones that we kind of know what we're getting.
We know what we're getting. Yep. No, nothing else for me.
Well, let's get your picks then.
All right. I'll start in MPO because I've got some exciting things over in MPO. I've got Kevin Jones in the 3 spot. Kevin took 5th here last year, and he is obviously playing better ever since he made the sponsorship switch. And I think Kevin has traditionally played better down the stretch. And while I wouldn't call him a wood specialist per se, he is someone who shapes the disc very well. And toboggan, especially with the elevation, rewards those who are able to shape lines and kind of craft those lines well. Kevin also has a very nice forehand-backhand combo that'll get him out of trouble. So I've got Kevin in the 3 spot. In the 2 spot, I've got Kyle Klein. Kyle Klein infamously battled with Eagle here and lost. And in the interview, Eagle said that Kyle was going to... Okay, this was when Kyle was wearing Eagle's t-shirt or jersey. And Eagle said that he was going to have to get his own jersey before he was going to beat him on that course. So Kyle Klein has played well here in the past. This is another case where Kyle strikes me as like an amazing park golfer. And this course is not a woods course. It even though it has natural OB, the fairways are too wide. There's too many open shots. It really feels closer to a park style than it does a woods course. and I think that's what favors Kyle Klein's game. So got him in the 2 spot. In the 1 spot though, I got Gannon Burr. You've got another 4-round event. You joke about it, but he plays well when there are more rounds. And again, it's another course, given that it doesn't have quite the same punishing level of like Ivy, for example, or Woods course. I think he's going to have an opportunity then that, the frustrations that I think have held him back a couple of times this season are not going to be present. Give me that consistency. Give me that opportunity. Gannon gets the win.
Kevin Jones, kind of a spicy pick. Otherwise, hard to argue with much here.
Yeah.
But, Kevin, he showed some flashes at Worlds.
Did.
I'm also going to go off the board a little bit this week. I'm going to start in my 3 spot with Eagle McMahon. This feels like such a get-right spot for him. I really contemplated picking him to win, but I can't get there yet. I can't get there yet. I need to see a little bit more consistency over the course of a tournament before I'm ready to say that. Obviously, he played great here last year. And he's starting to look like he's turning it around. I mean, he had some really nice rounds at Worlds. He's looking more confident with the disc in his hands, and it feels like he's actually learned how to throw them. Kind of important.
Yeah.
In the 2 spot, I've got Calvin Heimberg. I really don't have much else to say. The guy's a beast all the time. I think he plays great at this course, and I think was it DGLO? No, it was Ledgestone that he split with Ricky. I don't think he's won DGLO, right?
Not that I can remember.
I don't think so. So maybe this is the year, but I'm not calling it because I've got Chris Dickerson taking it down.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That is spicy.
Horses for courses. Chris started to put it together again. Like, I'm looking at people who started to look like they're getting into form, and Chris is on the list, and he had a great showing here last year. I think he finished 3rd.
I think that's right.
He was 5 shots off Simon. So there you go. Chris Dickerson.
All right.
On the FPO side, I've got Owen Scoggins in the 3 spot. Never doubt the dog. Won this last year. I would be surprised if she did it again, but that would be pretty sick if she did.
Despite this being known as a longer course for FPO.
She doesn't care.
She doesn't care.
She just doesn't care. She's going to make circle 2 putts in your face all day long. In the 2 spot, I've got Kristen. That's right. I do not have her winning.
Okay.
That's because I've Cap Merch taking it down. Premium spot for Cap Merch to win.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's not that different than Jonesboro.
Uh-huh. Spot on.
She just looked awesome last week. She was arguably the best player last week, all around. When you think about World's performances, how players competed the whole time. Obviously, she did not win, so she was not the best. But from a top to bottom perspective, I thought she was the most impressive player. And so, love this spot for her on a course that should suit her game.
Love the pick. I also do not have Kristen winning. I have her in my 3rd spot. This weekend, and it's honestly, I mean, of course, if Kristen, we're not picking Kristen to win, then it is an indictment of Kristen a little bit. But when I give you my 2-1 picks, it's because I think this weekend is going to be about who throws the disc. And there are 2 players that, are throwing the disc better than anybody else in the division right now. 2 spot, Evelina Salonen. Is she here? Hold on. I got to pause, Aiden. You're going to have to cut this.
You don't even have to cut it. Leave it in. Leave it in.
Hey, Aiden.
It's fine.
Aiden.
It's total. She was going to play, but then she was like, I got to go back home and I got to party.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, you're allowed to change your pick, but we can leave in this the fact that you were considering Evelina.
I wanted Evelina. I forgot that she was going to go home. I forgot that she was going home because of her celebration. Missy in the 4 because I need an alternate pick who's safe. So give me Missy. Or in the 2 spot. She was in 4th last year. Excuse me. So give me Missy in the 2. But in the 1 spot, and this is the one that I was confident and happy with. Holland Hanley is going in the 1 spot. That I think the pressure is going to be gone.
Bounce back
right?
Spot.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a bounce back. The pressure of Worlds is not there. It's going to be another opportunity, and it rewards people who throw the disc. And she's got the forehand backhand combo. Same reason I highlight a little bit like Kevin Jones. I really think this is her bounce back opportunity, and she's going to get a lot of points here for the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings.
Well, there you go. There's our picks. They're in the books. Let's see if we have a registration list really quick. Just want to check on one or two things. Okay.
All of our other FPO picks are there.
Okay, thank you for checking.
Yeah.
Kristen to 998 now, by the way. I don't know if we talked about that when the
I don't know if we had either.
Happened.
We kind of saw it coming.
Sure.
Like, yeah. We knew that was going to be the case.
Sure. Surprising to me, at least, is that Kristen is just, what is it now? 11 ratings points ahead of Owen and 13 ahead of Holland. Shows you how much those players have raised their game.
Yes, that is a testament to them.
So that's going to do it for this week's Upshot. Thank you so much for tuning in. TBD on a Rapid Reacts this week. Time zone stuff is hard, as you can probably tell by my general level of like alertness, and Josh's, to be honest. It's just coming up on midnight here, and Josh is getting up at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So we may not have one this week just because of it's going to be hard for me to even watch the tournament. But keep in touch. We'll be back next week. We will start getting you ready for the playoffs. We will get ready to rock and roll at Josh's favorite tournament. Favorite tournament of the year? Still?
Yeah, it's my favorite to watch.
Okay.
Yep.
GMC on the horizon, up in Smugs. So looking forward to that. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we will talk to you next week right here on The Upshot.